Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees are on the brink of elimination. They lose Game 3 of the World Series by a final score of 4-2. And it was another listless performance by this Yankee offense. The 2 runs they scored were with 2 outs in the ninth. A 2-run homer by Alex Verdugo, of all people, to cut it to 4-2. But, yeah, it started out bad. Freddie Freeman, who is very, very likely to be the World Series MVP, hits a 2-run homer off of Clarke Schmidt in the first inning. And so the crowd, who was, the Yankee crowd, was very into it to start and just taken out of it right away. And, yeah, they were never really able to recover. And look, that first game, which was very winnable, obviously, Yankees really should have won and let it slip, and they just haven't recovered. And so you combine that with the Dodgers simply being better than the Yankees, and here you are, right? Because the Yankees have won that game, the whole series is different. Now, that's not me saying the Yankees would win the series, not even close, but then you're in one. And now, the Yankees might get swept. I mean, they certainly might. I really did not think that would happen, but now, as we sit here, down 3-0, certainly a possibility. But, yeah, I mean, the lineup was changed ever so slightly. Jose Trevino started over Austin Wells, which didn't really do much. All it did was give the end of the lineup more balance in terms of lefty-righty, but that was it pretty much in terms of the lineup that had been. The only difference was Volpe moves up to 6, Rizzo down to 7, and Trevino takes that spot for Austin Wells. That's all it was. And any thoughts of there being any grand changes to the lineup? It's not going to happen. I think one thing that I thought that could have maybe randomly been possible would have been Dominguez for Verdugo, but after Verdugo hit that homer in the ninth, there's no way that's happening. No chance. So, again, I'm not saying that it would make a drastic difference, but as far as Judge batting where he's batting, it's just not going to get you results. Because really the hottest hitters in the lineup are Soto and Stanton. And to have Judge in the middle of them, it's a rally killer. It really, really is. You got to have those two next to each other. You got to have Stanton protecting Soto. And so if it were me, I would have Stanton batting third and either Judge fourth or fifth. And, if he's fourth, he's fourth. If he's fifth, batting fourth would presumably be Chisholm. Or if you wanted it to be Rizzo, I'm fine with that as well. To have a lefty break it up. I think that'd be tougher. That would have been my hope. But it's not going to happen. So, it's not worth, getting into it because it's so unrealistic and they're just going to ride it out. And I think the changes were necessary and they weren't done. And, as far as the catcher position, I don't know. I would say they probably go back to Wells, but really, is it going to make much of a difference? No, not really. But yeah, just really, really disappointing, embarrassing, quite frankly. And this is what the Yankee offense has done in recent postseasons for a while now. It just totally shuts down, like completely. And I understand that in postseason baseball, like that is going to, when you get eliminated, chances are it's probably because the other team's pitching shut you down. But it's just so extensive and it's so obvious and glaring. It's just really disappointing that this happens all the time. And so this has me thinking a lot about 2022 when the Yankees got swept by the Astros in the LCS, and here it is now. I remember, and it was so fucking ridiculous how, and they're not going to do it again this time, where the pump up speech was Boone basically showing the Yankees, the 2004 ALCS Red Sox down 0-3 versus these New York Yankees. Like, that was a PR. That was ridiculously embarrassing. The fact that they proudly talked about that was tone deaf beyond belief. And that's the frustrating thing, too. Whenever you go down 0-3, everyone will always reference back to 2004. Because that has been the only time in the history of Major League Baseball that a team has come back from 3-0 down. And I think it's going to stay that way for a very, very long time. Yeah, I mean, is it unbreakable? No. I mean, there'll be a time, but probably long after I'm gone, will that be the case? So, I mean, yeah, just totally brutal. It's hard to really, say much that's positive. Look, the bullpen was good, but it was too late. I mean, the bullpen they gave up like one run in about what 6 innings plus of ball, 1 run allowed. And you know what's fucking ridiculous? Like Luke Weaver ends up coming into this game down 4-0 in the ninth when he could have pitched up by 1 in the 10th inning, having thrown 19 pitches. The fact that Boone acknowledged that it was something he was wrestling with, you know that's going to keep him up at night. Like that decision to go instead of Weaver going with Jake Cousins and Nestor Cortez, he had his guy Luke Weaver in there. You can't let that opportunity slip. You cannot let that chance go away. That was thinking way too much about the future. You're in a World Series game in LA, I might add. And the mission was to get one game. And so, God forbid, Luke Weaver is not available in game 2. And I also understand there's a concern about, well, ineffectiveness as well, obviously, that like it's not a matter just of his availability moving forward, but also like how will he pitch the night of. But yeah, that's one that's going to look. Game 1 is going to hurt for a long, long time. But I also don't think it's fair to spend too much time on it because again, the Dodgers are better than the Yankees. It's a matter of that game being poorly managed and sloppy and not being able to respond from that loss. And you're dealing with a Dodger team that's just simply better all the way around. Really, like in all facets, it is just they don't make mistakes like the Yankees do. So let's discuss. And there's a lot of different, there's a lot of different key points in this game. And I know, a lot was made of Giancarlo Stanton being thrown out at the plate, and then it was a bad send by Luis Rojas. Yeah, I personally didn't have a major problem with the send, with the situation that was, but I understand certainly with Stanton's lack of speed, which is, we know it's well documented. I understand that people were upset about it, but it was a very good throw by Tasker Hernandez, and it was a close play at the plate. Now, if you got thrown up by a mile, I'd have a problem with it. Or if like Soto was on deck, I'd have a problem with it. But given the situation, I can't say that it's something that I'm, going to make a huge deal about. There was also, I guess I am jumping ahead to a couple of big moments, but like really Mark Carlson, who I think he umped one of the previous Yankee playoff game. Like he was the one played up for one of the games against Kansas City or Cleveland. I can't quite remember. And he fucked up like all night on both sides, but there was a big one. Gleyber Torres in the 7th inning, I believe it was, with a first and second situation. He got rung up on strikes and it was clearly a ball. It would have made it 3-2. It was the 7th inning against Anthony Banda with Soto on deck. There was 2 situations in this game, the 7th and 9th inning, where Soto would have been the tying run, and Gleyber made the last out of the inning, so it didn't happen. So that is really frustrating. So for the Yankees, Clarke Schmidt does not get the job done at all. And look, I'm not going to go into detail about this, but I felt as if, based on all the information that I had at my disposal, that Clarke Schmidt going in game 2 in LA and Carlos Rodon going in game 3 at Yankee Stadium, I thought that would have been the way to go. And the reason for that is Clarke Schmidt has been much better on the road than at home, and vice versa for Carlos Rodon. He's been much better at home. And this was Clarke Schmidt's first home start in the postseason. So like he was, and I was concerned about this. He was so amped up. He was so, it wasn't for, he really wanted it, and it backfired on him. He had a couple of 4-pitch walks to lead off innings. Like that is not like the Clarke Schmidt that we've seen recently. And that was, uncharacteristic. He had 4 walks in 2 2/3 innings, which is obviously not going to get the job done. But again, the offense is so porous that it wouldn't have mattered. But I do still stand by the fact that I think that would have been better. And the reason why they did it this way, I think it's a couple of things. Rodon was always kind of number 2. You signed him that big contract, and in theory, they do view Rodon ahead of Schmidt, which I understand and I don't disagree with. But I think, in a way, like it guarantees that Rodon gets that game sit. Like it puts Rodon a little bit ahead of the curve, as far as, if there is a game 6, it goes to Rodon, not Schmidt. I think they're thinking about that as well. So the other note of Rodon with I don't think I mentioned it in the last episode, but that he is dealing with a bit of a blister issue. And apparently it doesn't sound like it's going to be anything that's going to cost him time, but definitely, look, I don't think we're getting there. I don't think that look, as I record this now, I would love to get to a game 6, but it doesn't seem all that likely. So anyway, Schmidt really doesn't get it done. Goes less than 3 innings, which is not good. And he threw a lot of pitches in doing that. He threw 68 pitches and got 8 outs. Only allowed 2 hits, one of them a big homer to Freddie Freeman, but 3 runs, 4 walks. That's going to kill you. Whereas Walker Buehler was fantastic. And that's the disappointment. Cole versus Flaherty, you had to like in the sense that it's Cole. I did not love Rodon Yamamoto, but I felt like, okay, Schmidt versus Buehler, that may not be that bad. And boy, was it. Walker Buehler, 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Like I said last episode, he did well against the Mets in the NLCS, but before that, he was absolutely brutal. And so for him to come in Yankee Stadium and do what he did, it just speaks to the state of this fucking lineup. So, yeah, like I had kind of mentioned before what the Yankee lineup was, it was just Trevino in for Wells, and Volpe and Rizzo switched in the order. First inning, it's a 4-pitch walk to Shohei Ohtani, who was healthy enough to go. I think he's clearly compromised by the shoulder injury, but hey, gets a 4. It doesn't matter when it's a 4-pitch walk. And then with 1 out, Freddie Freeman does it again. He homers his 3rd straight game of the World Series where he homers, and dating back to 2021 with the Braves, he is now homered in 5 straight World Series games, which tied a record by George Springer, I believe. So, Schmidt just not a good location. Kind of a similar location to the grand slam by Freeman in game 1. And Freeman deposits it for a 2-0 homer, and it just sucks the life out of the crowd. And then at the bottom of the first, this was a chance to maybe make something happen. Gleyber Torres walks, and Gleyber continues in the first inning. He's gotten on 10 out of 12 times. It's crazy. He is like, he's at his best when like he's being a table setter. Because the fact is that like he ends up going 0 for 3. Now, the strikeout wasn't his fault, but and then Soto lines out to left center field. So it sets the stage for Aaron Judge. And there's been so much talk about Judge. I don't know. I've just given up at this point. Judge ends up striking out. It ends up being a full count. It's not as if he went down right away, but Judge swings at ball 4. It was a solid cutter. But if he doesn't swing, it's a walk at least. So Aaron Judge, it would be his only strikeout of the night, but he is now batting 140 in the postseason with 20 strikeouts with a 580 OPS. I mean, after coming in, really shitting the bed in previous postseasons, it's completely unacceptable. It really is. And look, I'm glad that everyone is cheering him on, like, great, but whatever. Like, it's just, the guy's a world-class player, one of the best in the league. You cannot have this. You can't. Let's look at the Dodgers. Let's look at some of their numbers. Their top studs. Now, it's funny. Ohtani, his stats actually really aren't even that amazing. 245 batting average with an 837 OPS, but that's exponentially better than Judge. It is. Like, I take that, and that's not even that good for Ohtani. Mookie Betts, 291 batting average with a 976 OPS. That is excellent. That is along the lines of Soto-type numbers, Stanton-type numbers. And Freddie Freeman, I'll let him off the hook for the fact that he had a bad injury that he was dealing with the first couple of series. And then, hey, he's about to win the World Series MVP. So, again, like, Judge is the one star that is absolutely doing nothing. And it's just something that I'm not going to be able to get out of my head when I think about Aaron Judge. In my Ranger episodes, I always give praise to Panarin in the regular season, but a lot of the times, I don't do it all the time, but a lot of times it's like, but what is he going to do in the postseason? And now with Judge, I feel like in the future, it's like, okay, like, great, this is awesome, but it's like, okay, but what are you going to do in the playoffs? At the end of the day, like, that's what it's all about. So, so then Stan grinds out to end the inning. We go to the top of the third, and it's another 4-pitch walk to start the inning with Tommy Edman. Like, that is something that you can't do, and it comes to bite Clarke Schmidt again. After an Ohtani ground out, Edman goes to second, and Mookie Betts with a pretty good at-bat. Look, it was a very lucky, fortunate for the Dodgers, but hey, you make your breaks on a fucking leadoff walk to Tommy Edman, and it's a dunker into right. Mookie Betts RBI single scores Tommy Edman. I mean, Tommy Edman's just been very impressive in terms of at the plate, on the bases, in the field. That was a very, very savvy, good pickup by the Dodgers. And what sucks is the Yankees were interested in Tommy Edman. So that makes it 3-0 Dodgers. And ultimately, Clarke Schmidt is not able to get out of the third inning. And Mark Leiter Jr. comes on with the bases loaded 2 out, but give Mark Leiter Jr. credit. He's able to get Will Smith the ground out. So, I guess in terms of minor encouraging things for next season, because Mark Leiter Jr., there was a lot thought of him. He gets added to the ALCS roster. I like what I've seen in terms of him coming into some really big spots and kind of cleaning things up. Credit where it's due. He's someone that, he was really, really fucking bad, at the end of the regular season. But now when he comes in there, I'm thinking, okay, like this could work. So Leiter Jr. in the fourth does get into some trouble. He does. So that should be, that's fair to mention here. It's funny. Leiter Jr. has almost been better at getting out of jams than he is like with a clean sheet, at the top of an inning. Leadoff walk Gavin Lux, which not good. Kike Hernandez single makes it first and third, no out, and it leads to a situation where Tommy Edmonds going for the safety squeeze bunt, and I believe it was a bunt play. Either way, but it's not being listed that way on the actual play. Either way, though, it's a play that goes to Mark Leiter Jr. and they get the out at home. They get Gavin Lux out at home, and they reviewed it, and the call on the field would stand, which I agree with. The one thing though, you could have called Trevino for blocking home plate, and I saw Dave Roberts was complaining about that. But in that situation, they don't call that. But that would have been the one thing, because John Smoltz was saying, "Oh, he's safe." Yeah, he might have been safe, but there was no replay that certainly conclusively said that. So a big out there, and I'm almost certain it was a bunt. So the bunts have almost hurt the Dodgers in a couple of these games. Nestor Cortez comes in, and the bittersweet part is that he actually pitched well here. Where you needed him in game one, and he didn't come through here. He strikes out Ohtani. He matches up well with Ohtani, and then Betts hits it hard, but lines out to Verdugo. Bottom of the fourth, Judge gets under one. Like, he was a good pitch to hit, and the crowd got pretty crazy, and but it was just a fly out to Teoscar Hernandez. And then Stanton doubles. Chisholm Jr. lines out to Mookie Betts. A pretty nice play by Mookie Betts, I might add, to make it run around second, 2 out. And Anthony Volpe actually comes through with a single to left field. And Luis Rojas sends Giancarlo Stanton home. But Teoscar Hernandez makes a really good throw, and they get Stanton out at the plate to end the inning. And in that situation, I really don't have a problem with them sending him. It was a 3-0 game in the fourth inning. You had 2 outs. If Anthony Rizzo was the way he used to be with his power potential and the chance to hit third homer, I'd have more of a problem with it. Or if it was Stanton on deck or Soto. Like, there are scenarios where maybe I would have held him, but given the situation and the way that play was unfolding, all it would have taken was Fernandez to just slip up a little bit, and Stanton would have gotten in there. So, look, I get it. And obviously Stanton is, just basically at this point, like the slowest player in the game. And if you do freeze frame it, it does look bad. Like, Stanton's just rounding third as Hernandez retrieves it, but he was deep and left. Either way, it doesn't work out. And another example of the Dodgers getting the job done with the fundamentals and the little things. And that keeps it at 3-0. Then Cortez pitches scoreless fifth inning, so he looked pretty good. Then in the sixth, Jake Cousins comes on, and this is where the Yankees give their one bullpen run. Jake Cousins, who, look, he pitched really well in that Cleveland, I guess it was game 5, pitched really well in that game, but it's kind of been surrounded by not so great pitching. It's not like he's been bombed, but it's been a little bit sketchy, let's just say. And Cousins did struggle in the 10th inning of game 1, and here, with 1 out, he hits Gavin Lux. You can't do that. He was ahead in the count, he hits him, and then Lux steals second. And I think that would have been a pretty big game plan against Jose Trevino, and that was a play where he probably would have had the bag stolen, but it ends up being a wild throw by Cousins anyway, so he's safe at second, and it's a steal for Lux. And then Kike Hernandez gets an RBI single, makes it 4-0. So again, for Jake Cousins, as far as pecking order goes, like, he's got to be pretty down there at this point, but it's kind of all hands on deck anyway. So 4-0 Dodgers there. And then Buehler is out after 5. They bring on Brusdar Graterol. Soto 1 out walk, and then Judge grounds out, and they get the out at second. It's just, And then what sucks is that Stanton then singles, right? And so it's sandwich. So Soto and Stanton get on, and in the middle, Judge doesn't come through. It's happening a lot, and it's why I wish that Stanton was batting behind Soto. Alex Verdugo, the lefty, comes on to face Jazz Chisholm, and he is able to get a ground out of Chisholm. And so the score remains 4-0. Tim Hill comes on, and, again, somewhat frustratingly, he gets the job done against Ohtani and Freeman. Ohtani pop out, Betts walk, Freeman ground out. And they get Betts out at second. So again, Hill, to me, that was the move. That was the move on game one, but they didn't do it. And then Clay Holmes comes on, does allow a single to Teoscar Hernandez, but then gets Max Muncy to strike out. Daniel Hudson pitches the 7th inning for the Dodgers, and the Yankees made a little bit of a rally, a 1-out single for Rizzo. They pinch hit Wells for Trevino, and Wells strikes out looking. Now, the at-bat was actually not a bad one, but Wells again strikes out. He's just looked absolutely awful. And then Anthony Banda, the lefty, comes on. He walks Verdugo, setting the stage for Gleyber Torres with Soto as the tying run. And Gleyber Torres strikes out looking on a ball. It was high. You know what the problem was? Gleyber took a half swing, and I think I'm not making an excuse for Mark Carlson, but I think it threw him off a little bit. And that was, again, just brutal. Clay Holmes gets the first out of the 8th. Tommy Kahnle gets the next 2 outs. Ryan Brazier comes in the bottom of the 8th. Aaron Judge does walk, but nothing else happens around it. And then in the 9th inning, Kahnle gets the first out. They bring on Luke Weaver. He hits Shohei Ohtani, but then Mookie Betts double play. And so Michael Kopech pitches the 9th. The Yankees did not see Blake Trinan. That was the one high leverage pitcher that the Yankees did not see, although he did warm up. A 1-out walk for Rizzo. And again, give credit to Rizzo in terms of just kind of grinding it out. It's not pretty, but I really got to say, I should be giving him more praise than I have. He really is doing the best he can out there. And what's been a tough season for him in many, many ways. He gets the second on a wild pitch, and then Austin Wells pops out. Again, Wells, just an unmitigated disaster for Austin Wells, and someone that was a key piece that has been a failure in the postseason. Wells, and I could name certainly a few others, but he was supposed to be that cleanup hitter, and it really did not happen. And then Alex Verdugo, to everyone's surprise, especially mine, he hits his first homer of the postseason, an 0-2 mistake by Michael Kopech, and Verdugo hits it out to make it 4-2. And so what you're hoping for is Gleyber to just get on to make Soto the tying run, but Gleyber Torres grounds out to end it, and the Dodgers win again by a score of 4-2. They are up 3-0 in this best-of-7 series, and the Yankees are on the brink of elimination and very close to potentially getting swept. And Game 4, it'll be a bullpen game for the Dodgers. Look, I think you're going to see, pitchers that you haven't really seen much in this series. So Brent Honeywell, maybe Landon Knack, I'm not sure. Kasparius as well. I think it's going to be a combination of some of the more bulk pitchers who can give you length, and as well as, some of the pitchers that we've seen a lot lately. So they're going to mix and match. I don't know that bodes well for the Yankees. I think it's been made to be seen it's a bullpen game for the Dodgers. That's good. Maybe if you take advantage of some of the Honeywells or the Knacks, if they pitch, you had to take advantage of those because they aren't as high quality, but I could see them giving the Yankees trouble. I really can. And then it's Luis Gil for the Yankees. And like I always say with him, he's a wild card. On the one hand, he could absolutely pitch a gem, but could he also do what Clarke Schmidt did? Yes, definitely. And it wouldn't surprise me if he did. So for Gil, kind of similar to how I felt with him in the Cleveland series, if he can give you about 4 innings, 1 or 2 runs allowed, that's kind of what you're looking for. And then you're going to have to go back to the pen again, as they did, unfortunately, a lot in Game 3. I actually have tickets to Game 5. And so, as I actually did as well against the Astros in 2022, and they got swept. So it may be 2 situations where, hoping to go to a game and, the Yankees end up just losing in 4. But hopefully that they can show some fight, avoid elimination, avoid getting swept, because if they get swept, then it's going to be the Yankees haven't won a World Series game since 2009. So, again, hard to be confident as far as them winning the series, but as far as a 1-game situation, you take it 1 game at a time, it's certainly not impossible they can get it done, but really this offense, this lineup has been so disappointing, and it's been a thing for, many, many postseasons. So again, Dodgers come to Yankee Stadium, and they beat the Yankees by a score of 4-2. We'll see if the Yankees can stave off elimination and a sweep in Game